It is Erickson here across the entire state of Georgia now. Welcome back. Joining me by phone from, well, I don't know. Are you in Texas or Washington, Senator Cruz?
Well, sadly, I'm in Washington. I wish I were in Texas, but I'm on COVID quarantine, and so locked alone in my apartment away from Heidi and the girls.
Oh, man. So I got to tell you, I meant to text you the other day with this. You would be so proud. My 11-year-old here in Georgia had to use the words Santa Ana, Sam Houston, Alamo, and San Jacinto in 3 paragraphs to describe the liberation of Texas. I'm like, he knows more about Texas as a Georgia student than he does about Georgia.
All right. That is just awesome. By the way, there is a fantastic little book that you might want to give your 11-year-old. It's called The Eagle and the Raven, and it is by James Michener, and it is a short comparative biography of Santa Ana and Sam Houston, and it was meant to be a chapter in Michener's book, Texas, but it got too long, and so he carved it out and made it its own book. And it's a great read. It's a quick read, but it's really good.
I'll give it to him. I've learned more from him than sitting down with Rick Perry, who can talk about nothing but Texas. All right. Now, I wasn't going to get you on here to talk about the greatness of Texas. I concede that that's the truth. I wanted to talk to you about the Supreme Court hearing because I'm really stunned that after months of the Democrats telling us Congress isn't allowed to meet in person, that suddenly the Senate is only allowed to meet in person.
Well, look, it ain't complicated. That the Democrats don't want to see the Supreme Court seat filled, and it's political and it's partisan. That's not lost on anybody. So whatever happens, their default response is going to be, you can't nominate this justice. We can't confirm this justice. The world is ending, and we're opposed. So, the Senate has had, I think, 150 virtual and hybrid hearings since COVID started, and we'll continue to do the same thing. Well, the hearings are going to start on Monday. The Democrats are welcome to attend in person, or if they prefer to attend virtually, they can do that too. Whatever they like is just fine by us.
Now, how do you see this playing out? I mean, just gaming it, I hear all sorts of fear behind the scenes that, maybe they can come up with a way to stop it. But it seems like she's an extraordinarily qualified jurist who even some Democrats supported for the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals.
No, I think that's right. I think she's a very strong nominee. Her academic record is impeccable. I met with her a couple of weeks ago at the Capitol, and I was very impressed just sitting down in person. Her temperament, she has a very calm, scholarly disposition, very, very much a judicial temperament, and I think it's going to be a sharp contrast between her approach and fidelity to the law and the Democrats' angry partisan opposition. I think they'll try to turn it into a political circus, just as they did for Justice Kavanaugh. But I don't think it's going to succeed. I think we have the votes, and I believe the Senate will confirm Judge Barrett by the end of the month before Election Day, which is what our job is. President Trump was elected to nominate justices who are principled constitutionalists, and the voters elected a Republican majority in the Senate to confirm justices who are principled constitutionalists, and so we're doing our job.
It's funny how that happens. Earlier in the program today, I was talking about Democrats may have a Merrick Garland grievance, but no Democratic nominee has ever been treated the way whether it's Bork or even Douglas Ginsburg, they went after him. Even Anthony Kennedy back in the 80s, Clarence Thomas, you name it. Never have you seen the attacks on a Breyer, a Ginsburg, a Sotomayor, or a Kagan that you see every single time when a Republican nominates someone.
Well, and there's a reason for that, and it's one of the things I trace in the book, One Vote Away, is it really started in the 1960s, where the left decided it was too hard to convince their fellow Americans of their policy agenda. The policy agenda was out there, and when Americans voted on it, we largely rejected their ideas as not making sense. So instead, they decided, all right, we're going to go to the courts. Rather than convince the voters, where liberal ideas often lose, we just have to get 5 lawyers in robes to decree for the country the outcomes we want, and we can short-circuit this whole messy democracy thing. That's one of the reasons why on Supreme Court nominations, the left treats it as Armageddon, because this is their power, their hammerlock. And you know, it's important to understand the point you made is exactly right, that the left engages in these nasty personal attacks. You know, Robert Bork, his name has become a verb. To bork a nominee is to attack them, to slander them, to smear them personally, to do so deceptively and dishonestly. They did it to Robert Bork. They did it to Clarence Thomas. They did it to Sam Alito. They did it to Brett Kavanaugh. Republicans have never done this to a Democratic nominee, and I'm glad we haven't. We focus on substance and issues, but none of their nominees have faced the garbage that they subject Republican nominees to. Mm-hmm. And it's also true, look, the left views this as a pure political battle. They want people who will vote for the outcomes they want. I don't want justices who will vote for the outcomes that I support. So, for example, I've got a chapter in the book on school choice. I am passionate about school choice. I think it is the civil rights issue of this next century. I've spent 30 years fighting for school choice. I don't want the Supreme Court to mandate school choice across the country. I think that'd be a great policy outcome, but it would be lawless for the Supreme Court for 5 judges to say, for the whole country, we've decided. The right place to fight for school choice is in the elected legislatures. It's in the state legislatures. It's in Congress, where I've been leading the fight for school choice. But the left, and it's really striking, I talk about a case called Zellman versus Simmons-Harris. 5-4, they upheld Ohio's school choice program. 4 justices were ready to strike down not just that program, but every school choice program in America. We're one vote away from the left saying every scholarship for low-income kids in this country is shut down, and that's an example of how one side is saying let the democratic process work, and the other side is saying no, we want power, and the court is our vehicle for power.
Sir, Cruz, before I get off here with you, one more question for you, unrelated to your book. I was mentioning earlier Ross Douthat's column in the New York Times today that a lot of the progressive policies on the virus and fighting the virus are having a disproportionate impact on keeping particularly minority students out of schools at a time Democrats are campaigning across the country on income inequality and inequality in the country. And yet it seems to be the Republican states that are getting kids back to school, and Democrats seem to want to keep everyone locked down just to win an election.
Look, that is exactly right. We're seeing the policies of the left of shut it all down, shut the businesses down, shut the schools down, are having a devastating effect. 51 million Americans have lost their jobs. And the people who are being hurt the most are the people that are on the lower rungs of the socioeconomic ladder. Look, when you have schools shut down, you know, Heidi and I, our girls are 9 and 12. We had them doing distance learning through the spring and much of the fall. Heidi and I were both in the house for much of that time. I was working from home. She was working from home. Even with 2 parents there, it was hard to have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader to set it up, to monitor them, have them go through school. Can you imagine how difficult that would be, Eric, if you were a single mom and if you had 3, 4, 5 kids and you're being pulled in every direction? There are millions of kids right now who are being left behind, who just are not getting an education. They aren't learning reading, writing, arithmetic. They're not learning skills. And as the days become weeks, become months, these kids are just being lost. They're being abandoned. If these kids don't get an education, their future is very much in jeopardy. And what's stunning is it seems Democrats don't give a flip. Their only objective is defeat Donald Trump, and they've decided that if everything's shut down, people who are alone and broke and angry will vote for Joe Biden. And I think the outcome is really devastating. We ought to have – our objective should be open the economy up, let small businesses open, let people go back to work, open the schools, let kids go back to schools. Do it in a way that's safe. Use social distancing. Listen to sound science. But stop destroying people's lives and livelihoods, and stop treating children like political pawns just because you don't like Donald Trump.
Amen to that. Senator Cruz, I got to leave it there. It's always good to talk to you. My best to your family, and hope you come out of quarantine at some point reasonably in the future.